Welcome back, Roster Wars, to the now was it third annual across the pond mock draft of the NFL. So, welcome, Ross. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, mate. RFA just wrapping up. All eyes on PP now. A bit of drama going over there. Yeah, it's a bit of excitement after everyone else is sort of finished. PP still going, and then you get a bit of drama going on as well.
Indeed. Which explains where Nathan is tonight. Really, he's still waiting and watching to raise by one warbuck every sort of 23 hours or so. Or if you're watching Andy, that was a joke. It's okay. Don't worry. No, Nathan's moving house this weekend, so he's having to pack boxes, and I think his missus would have gone a bit nuts if he took an hour out of his time to do a draft. But on that basis, we took some time out yesterday between the three of us to do a mock draft. So Ross and I will present it to you. RFA wise, from our side, I guess obviously we're in different positions of how much warbucks we had this year. Are you quite happy how it went?
Yeah, in the end, probably. Yeah, I didn't have many warbucks, like you said. I thought I would be able to compete for a lot more players than I did, especially linebackers. Linebackers just got a bit out of hand. And so, yeah, maybe didn't get as many targets as I thought. Then, yeah, I got a couple of players that I wanted to get done, retained a few players. Lontavian Wicks was a big one that I wanted to keep on the offensive side. But it was mostly going to be about defense for me. But I ended up getting a few running backs as well. So, a few pivots, as always. You've got your plan going in, you've got your Excel spreadsheet, and then it all goes to shit as soon as people start bidding, and then you pivot and you change your plans. But in the end, relatively happy. Wish I got a bit more linebackers, but other than that, we're all good.
Yeah.
What about you? You're involved in some heavy bidding?
Yeah, I was trying to defend the real Josh Allen. Not that rubbish quarterback, but that got a bit pricey for me. So I ended up sort of going to plan B, which was bringing in Joey Bosa from a few warbucks. So hopefully it's the old fit wrecking ball Joey Bosa, not the newer injured version.
Both
Bosas, yeah. I got both Bosas and Garrett at defensive end. So another big thing, I try and reload at defensive tackle this year as well. So because also with Aaron Donald retiring. I had some work to do on that, and obviously a bit of work at linebacker as well. But as we discussed before, they got a bit expensive a bit quickly, some of these guys at linebacker.
Yeah, a defensive tackle as well. You said Christian Barmore about 32. Jonathan Allen was up there. There's a few boys, but people are now beginning to realise how many points you score. 4 points per tackle. It's a good way to build your team as defensive tackle.
Yeah, try and start 6 of them every week. I think so. The 4 per sack. Coming very handy indeed. Right, well, so I think as other people cover RFA in a more in-depth manner, we'll leave it to them, and we'll get on with the draft, which I'm quite excited about as a Bears fan, having 2 first-round picks. You're quite excited because it's the only time the Jets might win something, I guess.
Yeah, well, this is different because now we're a win now team. We're not normally now we're normally building for the future. We're like, who's the next hope guy who's going to be in the franchise for the next 10, 15 years? Now we're a win now team. We're thinking, who's going to give us production now to help us get to the Super Bowl? So different times, but still as excited as ever to see where these guys land.
Yeah, and you let one quarterback go and brought in your next new starting quarterback in free agency in real life as well with Tyrod Taylor. So all's good there.
Yeah, I like Tyrod Taylor, honestly. See if we had him last year, we would be in the playoffs, guaranteed.
I think
Zach Wilson's gone right? A year too late.
But they've realised you need to have a good backup who's going to be seamless and go through, I guess, is what a lot of these guys are fighting for. I guess it's like what Minshew's move and Darnold, they're all trying to bring some big names in behind. Josh Dobbs going to San Francisco. There's some good moves out there. I think it would be interesting times this season, especially if some of these big names get injured early. Obviously, not wishing anyone to get injured early. Like what was the quote the other day? The solar eclipse lasted longer than Aaron Rodgers' season for the Jets.
It still hurts, mate. Still hurts.
Well, hopefully this year, everyone's dreams are still alive so far. So
there you go.
Indeed, even the Panthers, who we don't mention at all tonight going forward. So that's always good to know. Right. So let's crack on. As I said, the three of us got together yesterday. We ran through the mock draft. The way it worked was we had who went first? You went first, didn't you? I think that right.
Yeah, it was me. I'm the Bears fan. I went first. Yeah.
Bears fan, yeah, and I went Nathan second, and I went third. So what we'll do, we'll share our live mock draft, and surprise,
you spoiled it. We've spoiled it.
No surprise. Sorry, who was first on the board? Who would you like?
It's definitely Caleb Williams. You've got to take it. I remember when there was a discussion around this at times. People were talking about Drake May earlier in the process, maybe towards the end of the season, and then you had yourself as the main champion behind the keep Justin Fields, but now he's out the building. So there's only one option: Caleb Williams, best player in the draft, best quarterback. I think he's going to be really, really good. I think the situation around him is decent enough as well.
I really hope so. Yeah, as you said, I was a Bears fan. I'm a Bears fan. I was a Fields fan. Not only did we sell him, I sold him as well in the RR. I still have got quite a few shares of him elsewhere. But yeah, I think this one has been nailed on for a while, right? It's not even like a discussion that's been had. Although I did see a really random thing yesterday or this morning. I can't remember, it was on Twitter, so it's probably absolute shit. But it's gonna be absolute shit anyway. The Jags are going to try and take the 101, sending Trevor Lawrence and their draft pick, which is the 17th pick, to the Bears. No, thank you. We'll keep Caleb Williams. End. I think that's enough value on that. I mean, would you do that if you're the Bears? Would you take Trevor Lawrence, who's financially going to be much more expensive?
Yeah, well, I think when you consider the finances, then no. I think 17th overall pick, not great. You've got your ninth there as well, so it's not as if you're only getting Caleb Williams this draft. You've got some young players to build around them as well with 9th overall. It's an interesting exercise, really, when you think about it, to go down how many teams, how many quarterbacks would you trade the 101 for? And although Caleb Williams is obviously still a prospect and nothing's promised, like there's not that many guys because of the sort of cost-controlled young draft pick and his age as well, then there's not that many guys you would trade him for. I'd say an interesting exercise for another time.
But interestingly, if I remember his service correctly, he's already going to Canton. The Bears are playing in the Hall of Fame game, so he's already going to Canton on game one. It's sold. It's written in the stars. 20-year career, 7 Super Bowls.
He's probably already in the Bears Hall of Fame before even taking a snap. He's probably the best quarterback the Bears have ever had.
Well, in all fairness, and I know, I think Nick put something on the board the other day about touchdowns and yardage. I mean, if he throws more than 30 touchdown passes and more than 3,500 yards, he's already the best ever season as a Bears quarterback. So we'll move on very swiftly, I think, on the back of that. But yeah, I personally have no problem with Caleb Williams. I think he's the most locked in of all the picks I think I'd have had.
Yeah,
for number 1. So that brought up Nathan at number 2. He didn't actually. He came in super quick. Soon as you'd picked, he was in saying, "That's it. He's the guy. Heisman Trophy man. That's a lock in for the Commanders." Thoughts on Daniels?
We talked about this on the Rookie podcast. I'm not as high on Jayden Daniels as a lot of people. I definitely have Drake May above him, and I maybe wouldn't. I said I would have Daniels ahead of May in fantasy, but now I'm actually reneging on that. I'm gonna say that I would have May above Daniels in fantasy without knowing the landing spot. I just think, in terms of Daniels, his arm is a bit overrated. He could throw a good deep ball, but I think his arm's maybe a bit overrated. And he only had 1 season of production, and that's when he had 2 elite receivers, like 2 top 20 picks, and he had no pressure. So obviously, I'm not saying he's a bad player. He can still be a really good player. And obviously, we thought last year CJ Stroud, actually very similar circumstances in terms of wasn't under pressure, thrown to elite receivers, and he turned out pretty good. So Me personally, not as high in Daniels, but all the buzz about this pick is him going to number 2 in Washington.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess we are kind of following form a little bit already. So, which brings me at number 3. If Nathan went Daniels, I was only going one place with number 3, Drake May. The Patriots need a quarterback. End.
Yeah.
I think of where they sit on there, he's the third best or the next best quarterback up. I guess there's talk. Oh, sorry, we're not doing any trades. This is literally as the picks stand of today. We're not doing any trades because there's lots of scenarios where the Patriots may trade back or decide to wait a couple of years before bringing in the quarterback or whatever. But I think the way the quarterbacks work, the way this is working, the Patriots need a quarterback. It's going to be nailed on for that pick, I think. And like you said, whether if the Commanders take May, they'll take Daniels. I think it's that kind of that flow. Whichever the best quarterback up is, that's where they're moving in. So, yeah, I think the top 3 pretty stand on that. So it brings yourself up for number 4 with the Cardinals.
Number 4, only one pick, Marvin Harrison. This is another one that's been slotted in for a long time. I think we've matched Marvin Harrison to the Cardinals for a while, but it makes sense. They may trade out, but I think they should stick and pick. At some point, you need good players. Like there's all well and good getting more picks, getting more value, but eventually you just need good players. I think Cardinals have quite a lot of picks as it is, so get the locked on, solid, best wide receiver in the draft. Move on.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Last couple of years has been a bit of transition at wide receiver for them as well. They've sort of lost some bigger names, some more star players. They've obviously got the quarterback tied up on a pretty big contract for some time, so you better give him some weapons in there. I think last year the tight end situation sort of solved itself. I think the chap's name escapes me now, but he came on leaps
Trey
and
McBride.
bounds. That's the guy. Yeah, I think he looked pretty good last year.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've got no qualms with Harrison at number 4 at all. Like you said, it's one of those, the top 4's been locked in for weeks. So hopefully we can show a bit of difference as we go along now. But, which then brought up Nathan at 5 with the Chargers. As they don't have any wide receivers, I think this was kind of locked on as well, right? They're either going to trade out or they're picking a wide receiver. They can't take a lineman. They can't take an edge rusher. They've got to have a target to throw at. Obviously, Big Mike Williams has gone.
Keenan Allen.
Keenan Allen's gone. There's no. I mean, Jared Everett went as well. They've really got to restock that whole receiving core. And unless they get some ridiculous offer, I can't see them moving out to take much of a step back, right? Unless they're going to move down to
Vikings,
Broncos
11.
Yeah, 11, 12 with the Broncos. Raiders at 13. I mean, there's the scope to move back a little bit there, but yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense for the Chargers if we're not doing trades to sit there.
I love Rome Odunze, but I really think they're going to take a tackle. Like they're probably not going to come to fruition because I think they will trade out. But I think Harbaugh loves running the ball. You see him in his RV with Greg Roman. It's crazy. They probably shouldn't because I think they've got obviously one really good tackle, and I think Trey Pipkins is decent. But I think they're going to do it. It sounds crazy, but I reckon they might. But yeah, for me, exactly, great pick. Rome Odunze, fantastic wide receiver, and they need one. So
yeah. Also, if you think about it, they have brought in 2 running backs in free agency. In fact, they just brought in the Ravens backfield in free agency.
One and a half. Does Dobbins count? How many healthy knees does he have?
He's healthy for what, a week, 2 weeks? I mean, I always liked him as a runner, but he's never fit. So obviously, I wouldn't be taking a running back at 5. That'd be just crazy, I think, on this current draft. But yeah. I mean, a tackle wouldn't be a bad option either, really. But but Harbaugh style of just run it down your throat. But then that leaves your very expensive franchise quarterback doing not a lot. So we'll see. I can't remember when he was at the 49ers. Did he have quite a running and a passing game as a coach? I can't remember much about.
Well, it was mostly a run game. It was built around the run game. Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick as his quarterbacks. So Kaepernick obviously mostly a running quarterback, hand the ball off, bit electric with his feet. So yeah, it wasn't a all-out passing attack for sure, definitely.
Okay.
And then he goes to Michigan, and all they do is run the ball as well. JJ McCarthy had 10 completions in the championship game against uh, Alabama. So yeah, he wants to run the ball. Maybe he changes things up. Maybe when he realizes he's actually got a good quarterback in Justin Herbert, he will. But
Yeah, well,
we'll see.
yeah, interesting to see. Okay, well, we'll move on to the Giants. Now, this was a bit of a. It took me a bit of a while to get to this one. I remember sort of sitting there thinking, now, how long do they stick with Danny Dimes? Do they take a risk in going for a quarterback this year? Do they think Dimes will be the guy? I think they're going to roll the dice and go with Dimes one more year. It's the same setup. It's the same head coach, same GM. They've paid. Okay, there's escape clauses. Don't get me wrong, but I think on the back of that, they want to give him some more weapons. And I think they go for Malik Neighbors as the next pick. I did a guy I work with a Giants fan, and he's like every mock I see, it's a wide receiver. It's always him. There is a bit of me thinking they might do something a bit crazy and try and take McCarthy, or I think McCarthy will be the next one up. I think if it's going to happen from their point of view, but I think you've invested enough money in the quarterback. A bit like this Chargers situation, you need to give him some decent targets, right? And also, I think they're still waiting to hear if their tight end wants to retire or not.
I hope he doesn't, because I own him. I'm the Darren Waller owner, so
I got
I was asking. He's definitely not retired. Definitely not retired.
Okay, perfect. Right, write him a letter. So please don't retire. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, it took me a while to get there. I really thought about going for McCarthy, but
no, this is very chalk, and like you said, everyone's got them doing wide receiver, but they could get spicy. I mean, they could get out of Daniel Jones next year very easily, and it doesn't seem like the front office is sold on him, even though they're the ones that gave him the big contract. A lot of buzz around like this offseason is looking at options, and whether that means they actually do it and pull the trigger or not. Maybe they've got a guy they like. Maybe if Drake May falls, for example, they're willing to go for him, but they're not willing to go for McCarthy. I don't know, and we might never know because I mean, they might not be able to trade up, or the right guy might not fall to them, but they could get really spicy. The problem is, like you said, they don't have a lot of pieces there, especially on offense with Saquon Barkley going as well. So they're not a plug and play one quarterback away. They still need, even if they do get a good quarterback, they still need to build up the rest of the roster. So yeah, lots of options, could go anywhere, but I think wide receivers probably a good pick for me.
So a bit of a coin toss then. Okay, perfect. Right, so back to yourself. And this
is another boring one. Yeah, another boring one. We've been mocking Joe out to the Titans forever. They definitely need a tackle. There was a spell for a while where we thought they might get a wide receiver, but then they obviously got Calvin Ridley and free agency, and you've got DeAndre Hopkins there, and get a tackle, and suddenly Will Levis has a bit more of a chance. He didn't have a chance last year. He's got a bit more of a chance this year. Find out what he's got. Find out if he is the guy this year, and then they could decide what to do with the quarterback going forward.
Yeah, he did show flashes of some very good play last year, and I think it's similar to what Fields had in Chicago. When you're running for your life or on your back, it's very hard to play any passes in, really. So, yeah, probably a sound investment. Like, yeah, it's what most people are mocking for ages, but I like the guy as well. I think he's a good, solid plug-in guy into that position. There's a start, and he's probably successful from day one. So, right. So next, that was Nathan with the Falcons, isn't it? Jared Verse. Yeah, I mean, they can't spend more money on first round offensive players, couldn't they? Really? I mean, there's nowhere for them. You could
need a second wide receiver, maybe, but I don't see it. But yeah,
no, but like, hang on, you've stacked everything else up. You've. I think I think I'd also like. I want to see them where they're not getting in their own way by having stupid play calls doing stupid things with players that should be given the advantage to run the ball or catch the ball, rather than doing some of the play calling was absolutely atrocious last year. And the fact he got an OC job as well, I think that's crazy. But yeah, sorry, hold on. But I think the Falcons are one of these weird teams that could be quite good. It wouldn't take a lot with some decent play calling to have. Okay, maybe not run it all the way to the Super Bowl, but could be quite dangerous.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like the coaching, you know what I mean? Change the coach. That's like 2 wins straight off the bat. Like you get 2 wins just by not having Arthur Smith there, handing the ball off to Cordell Patterson or throwing the ball to Jonnu Smith. So there's 2 wins right there.
Yeah.
And then you add Jared Verse, who's for me, he's a top edge rusher on my draft board. And he can make an instant impact. Just a really powerful guy. They need someone. They've been needing an edge rusher for a long, long time, and he can make an instant impact. And like you said, could be good. Could be win the division straight away.
And once you get in the playoffs, anything's possible, right? I mean, you do a couple of freaky plays, or suddenly you're in the conference final. You're not that far away from the Super Bowl. It doesn't take an awful lot. And I think they're one of those teams where, they could be quite dangerous to a lot of teams in a lot of places. There's a lot of talent on there. I thought Fields might go there at one point. I thought he might be the guy they slot into that system.
Everyone thought that, yeah.
But yeah,
they've got a better option than Kirk.
I think he's steady, right? He can manage a game. He can win you games. He's got a decent arm. He's shown that with Jefferson the last few years. He's tried and tested. I guess the only thing, he's not as athletic. But when you've got Bijan Robinson and you don't need to be doing much quarterback running yourself, apart from the sneak play. But now, so next one's the most important pick in the draft for me. And going back to the conversation about the Titans, you need to keep your quarterback upright. And I think Latham's going to be another. It's an important. We're not just a quarterback away. We've got lots of other holes to fill, and the offensive line. Yes, it's been upgraded a little bit in the free agency, but we need to keep building that front line up and having a big, strong, dependent passing and running line to keep the ball moving, keep the pressure off the quarterback. I mean, if you'd put Mahomes behind the Bears those years ago, would he be the player he is today? No. He'll be a splattered mess. There's a backup quarterback somewhere else. So I think it's interesting how we need to develop that. I don't know if you think that's the right pick, or I don't know if that's the kind of guy you would be expecting.
Well, I don't know much about tackles in terms of like watching their breaking down the tape and things like that. So you go off what you're hearing from everyone else, and what you're hearing about JC Latham is he's maybe got a bit of versatility, so you can play guard as well. So I think that's maybe something that will help you guys, like just getting the best five offensive linemen out there. And obviously you want to build around Caleb Williams. So there's a lot of talk about them going defense, maybe getting a defensive tackle or an edge rusher here. But I really see building around Caleb Williams, helping him out, whether that's tackle, whether that's wide receiver. One didn't fall to him here, but maybe Rome Odunze falls to number 9. That's a common pick. So yeah, I like the idea of building around Williams and getting an offensive player. What do you think about defense? Would you hate that? Would you?
I wouldn't hate it. I mean, the last, certainly the way Poles has been drafting, he's been taking O linemen in 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th rounds and trying to take 3 to hopefully 1 makes to be the guy. I don't know. I think we need if we are. This is the 101 pick. We don't want another 101 pick for a few years. We don't want it ever again. Actually, so you've got to protect the guy. We've lucked out a bit. We've managed to get the 101 back after trading away out of it last year. I think you got to protect him. I wouldn't hate defense, but I think they added some players last year in trades. It's a bit worse this year in the off season. So I think it's time to bolster up that line and not get your quarterback killed from week 1. So because the other thing, he is likely to start week 1, Williams. there's nothing else around him to even give him half a season to build. He is going to be walking in day one.
Yeah. Doesn't need it though. Doesn't need it. He'll be fine. He'll be fine. But you're right. You need to build around him. You've done enough, like with getting. You've also got DJ Moore. You've got Keenan Allen, and you've got Cole Kmet, who's half decent.
He's
And
the greatest tight end in the league. Yes, thank you. Yes.
and like you said, I think he's in a decent enough position. But if you can strengthen that even more by getting a good offensive player in number 9 who can make an instant impact, that can only help.
Yeah, yeah. I'll be happy. I'll certainly be happy with that. I'm happy to have the first 2 picks. Yeah, quarterback and an offensive lineman to protect him. Happy with that, definitely.
Dream draft.
So next up is who got? We can skip over 10, can't we?
Super Bowl champion New York Jets. No, I'm joking. I'm absolutely joking. I'm not predicting anything like that. But Jets number 10. We're going to take Troy Fautanu out of Washington, offensive tackle / guard. He's a bit versatile. He can do a bit of everything, but he's one of the most athletic players in the entire draft. I think he was again, from what I've seen, from my novice eyes, he was very competent at Washington last year, kept Michael Penix upright, and we definitely need someone on the offensive line. It's either going to be tackle or wide receiver. I don't want a tight end, if it's defense, then we're just hold the franchise. It cannot be defense. So get someone who can have an instant impact. Jets like versatility because we have so many injuries every season on the offensive line, and he can move around a bit. So he may not start week 1. We might have our 5 starters already, but he's going to be needed throughout the season, and he's going to be a long-term starter, hopefully, after Tyron Smith sort of retires. So,
yeah, and also the fact that you invested heavily in a quarterback to win now, you might as well give him a bit more protection. You know, he's good. He's played with enough okay wide receivers over the years to get excellence out of other players. So, yeah, I think the way the board's gone so far, I think you'd probably a bit of a reach to take a wide receiver. I think at 10 maybe from there. I don't know.
Yeah. I think Brian Thomas was obviously the next guy up for me personally. I don't think I would take him this high with this amount of tackle talent left. In the draft, my dream scenario would be Rome Odunze. I don't think he's going to make it to 10, but if he makes it to 8, I can see us trading up with the Atlanta Falcons, and then that would be an absolute home run pick for me. He obviously didn't make it that far in this scenario, and it's an outside chance. But yeah, those are 2 things I can see us doing: is wide receiver, maybe trading up, offensive tackle. There's some talk about Brock Bowers, but I really hope we don't do that. I don't think Nathaniel Hackett is creative enough to get him the touches that he needs.
Yeah, I mean,
worthy the 10 pick.
I'm not sure, and as I think we discussed, and I think John did that article the other week about tight end usage and first round pick tight ends. I love tight ends. I love watching. They're great. They're great assets to a lot of teams and some amazing players over the last few years. But I think you want to the way Rodgers plays, you can have, as long as you've got protection for him and given the time to be able to launch some of these passes downfield. And in the injury side of the game as well. With the extra game we've had in the last couple of years, the wear and tear of these guys is quite high. Yeah, and a long-term starter, as you said, not just this year, but going forward. So that's good. Right. So that brought Nathan back up with the Vikings, and they need a quarterback. So I guess it was one of the 2, I guess, really, at this stage. I like McCarthy, but he hasn't had as much passing exposure as some of the top 3. Will Justin Jefferson be happy with this?
I think he's probably happier with it than having Sam Darnold as a long-term outlook. But because there's the hope that McCarthy could be good, and personally, I've said my piece on him. I think I've got him as my QB5. I'm a bit down on him, but if there's one situation that can turn things around, it's the Vikings, isn't it? I think they've got a really good offensive coach for starters. And then you've got, like you said, you've got Justin Jefferson. Jordan Addison was decent as a wide receiver 2 last year. TJ Hawkinson as well. got really good pieces there, and the offensive line isn't terrible. So even if he doesn't start this year, because they do have Sam Darnold, and they may want to give him the first shot, and then 6 weeks in, 10 weeks in, McCarthy comes in, or maybe he sits a full season. But I think they need to leave this draft with a quarterback. I think that's why they got the 2 first-round picks to maneuver. So even if they don't wait till 11, they might move up and get someone.
Yeah, again, I see they're one of the teams that may do jump up to 4 to try and get in and take a quarterback early, or maybe the Patriots can't say no to 2 first-round picks to restock more of the cupboard that front. I think, yeah. I mean, as we look at this board, the quarterback. I don't think they can gamble that McCarthy or Penix were there at 23. I think that's a bit too much of a gamble from their point of view to sit and wait. Especially with the Broncos, the Raiders, the Saints need a quarterback as well at some point.
If you're willing to take one at 23, you need to take him at 11. If this scenario happens and they don't move, you can't just say, okay, we'll wait on their franchise QB so we can get better value 12 picks later. It means nothing. Take him now. No. And if he's good, he's good. If he's bad, it was a bad pick anyway.
Yeah. And I guess, there's no guarantee, like you said, there's no guarantee that any of these guys work out being the next franchise quarterback. So
absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess they try to work hard to keep Cousins in the building. I can't see that there was an easy to let the guy walk, but I guess you got to fill that slot. And Darnold's not. I mean, Darnold could be the next Geno Smith, right? He could suddenly just
get
his groove.
I like Darnold.
Well, he didn't do it. He wasn't awful for you. He wasn't awful for the Panthers. He just wasn't great.
I think he was awful for us, but he never had the surrounding cast that we've had the last couple of years. The whole roster was bad. So there was always that thing, whereas he's never had the opportunity to be on a good team. We never done anything around him. We had Adam Gase as his head coach, so that doesn't help. So for me, he's in a different stratosphere to Zach Wilson, who Zach Wilson's done. He's out the league. Sam Darnold, he's going to stick around. He might be a backup for a long time. We'll see if he could be a starter this season.
Yeah, it's probably a sound guy to have in your room as well, with a bit of starting experience and seeing and be able to pass on the sort of how you do things with starting quarterbacks. Next up, it is the Broncos. Who's picking? I can't remember who's picking, isn't it? Yours and mine? I can't remember.
It was yourself. Right,
myself. Yes. So again, another quarterback needy team. I think the way obviously it wasn't working. Russell Wilson. They are eating an awful lot of salary. So that obviously limits what they can do. Yeah, so ridiculous. But it was cheap. It's a good idea to just let him go and play for someone else for free. It's great. Yeah, go for it. And I think, again, they're one of the teams that could make a move and try and trade up into the top 3. They're probably lacking this year's assets to throw an awful lot at it. But they're not afraid of making moves. But I think the way they are currently, they've got a lot of holes to plug and fill. So chucking too many draft picks to move up. So they've got Wilson, right? That's who they just signed as their backup quarterback. Is that correct?
Zach Wilson and Jarrett Stidham can't battle right now.
Yeah. So chuck in my Penix Jr. I think he can. If he doesn't start week 1, he can start in week 5 or week 6. Give him some time to bed in, come on and play 10 snaps, 20 snaps over the first couple of games, get a feel for the speed. I think the coach has shown over the years he's got the ability to get the best out of quarterbacks. Obviously, can you compare the two? You can't really compare the two at the moment because one guy's heading to the Hall of Fame and the other guy's a rookie who've got no idea how good he is. So it could be a case of a bit like the Patriots that. Yeah. It really was Tom Brady was the best person on the building, not the head coach.
He's a bum. Belichick's done.
Well, that thing the other day that Kraft phoned up the Falcons and said, "Don't hire him. He's a liar."
It was a big hit piece on Belichick, wasn't it? It was enjoyable reading.
That's true. That's terrible. guy wins you how many Super Bowls and you start saying that? Let him disappear off. Let him disappear off. Let him just quietly disappear off into we've forgotten about him until Hall of Fame. So crazy times. But I don't think they can do much else than unless they trade out and just get a couple of first round picks from someone else or something to restock the cupboard. I think they're taking the quarterback here, the Broncos.
Yeah, I can't predict what Sean Payton's going to do. Could be anything. Their roster is in such a bad shape. Like, it feels like they're selling off everyone. So it's difficult to see a quarterback coming in and being successful straight away with the sort of pieces that are around there, especially the pass catchers. It's only really Cortland Sutton. I suppose you got Marvin Mims. He was decent. But yeah, I could see it going a million different ways. I wouldn't be surprised if it is Penix. A lot of people would consider this a reach. I think he's a second round quarterback, but I wouldn't be surprised if he does go in the first round. Maybe they trade back and still able to get him later in the first round, but they are desperate, aren't they? Like we talked about Zach Wilson and Jared Stidham, they're desperate for someone else in there.
And I think also take it in the first round. Okay, the dollar sign's higher because it's 12, not 16, but you get the 5th-year option on there as well. So if you are in a rebuilding phase, having the 5th-year options, which is still relatively expensive, but not crazy expensive, could give them the time to help rebuild on that. But yeah, I think it's another one that kind of that could be a edge rusher, that could be a tackle, that could be anyone. Probably not a tight end though, but yeah. Although he does play tight ends at quarterback, perhaps that's the way. Why is Taysom Hill not at the Broncos? He'd be the perfect.
He's got too big a contract. He's untradeable. His contract's too big.
He can throw to himself as well. It's perfect. Right. Raiders 13.
Yep, this was my pick. I went for a tackle, Talisa Fuaga out of Oregon State. This maybe would have been a consideration for Michael Penix for me, just because, again, they're so desperate at quarterback. They did sign Gardner Minshew, but I think he's garbage. But the contract they signed him to tells me that they don't think that. So there's a few different positions they could have got as well, maybe an edge rusher, cornerback, but I like Fuaga, and looking at the tackles, the way they're flying off the board early, lock one up right now, come back to the other positions later on in the second round.
Yep. So you think it's Minshew over AOC then? As
100%, 100%. You don't pay someone that much money to lose in camp to Aidan O'Connell, who wasn't that great. It's admirable that he got on the field early. Was a 4th round pick, but you don't win with admiration. You don't win football games like that. You need actual talent.
Yeah, not everyone's a Brock Purdy or a Tom Brady that's to come in and do the job. I guess from that far down. I guess If you're paying a guy that much money, you might as well protect him a little bit as well. And also, as you said, the tackles have started coming off the board quite early. It's a good spot to fill for a long-term slot-in player for your franchise as well on there. So yeah, I think that makes sense. And when just to let you know, when we were doing this on WhatsApp yesterday, the next response after this pick from Nathan was, "Fuck you! You've taken all the good tackles." I don't think the Saints will be very happy at this stage, which then prompted him to go to tight end, which. I don't know. He was tempted to go edge, he says, but he I don't know. What do you think?
I think you're getting an offensive weapon. So whether it's tight end, whether it's wide receiver, like he's another offensive weapon for Derek Carr, who seems to be the guy there. He seems to be getting another couple of years at least. So I think anything you can do to help him, that's good. Brock Bowers is a really talented player. They've got Chris Olave already there, obviously. Alvin Kamara's still kicking around, even though he's getting a bit older. So you need more options than just Chris Olave. Brock Bowers does that. He's a talented player. Like you said, there's a few different options they could have gone for here. But like I said, the board maybe fell in a way that sort of leaned more towards tight end for Nate. And he knows the Saints. He knows more what they needed. Edge was, I'm sure, a consideration for him as well here.
Yeah, I think from the conversations we've had with him and off camera, he's yeah. I mean, they need weapons to attack and defend. So whether they go offense or defense, I think it's I'm not sure when the next pick is, but yeah, I guess next player up on the board, you take it and go along from there, really. So that brought us to yourself, right? No, me. Right.
You're
So
forgetting all your picks.
yeah, I know. It's been a long couple of days. It's been a long couple of days. Yeah. So I think the Colts defensively, they did a lot of work doing as well. I mean, they've lost some key players over the years. I think they've re-signed Buckner, I think, to another contract. But Dallas Turner, I think, is probably not the next guy they need to help the defensive sort of side of the ball get on. I think, so, you know, a lot of the mocks I saw had him going a lot earlier, top 10, top 12. So he's almost like he's the next best guy on the board. He shouldn't, you know, to a lot of the drafts, he probably wouldn't get this far down. So when you know they've got other holes to fill. I think offensively they've still got some work to do. But I think he's kind of a good player to sort of add to their long-term plans. They're not a win now team. They're a building up team. So to me, that's the logical way they would go on that. I think he's probably too good to be picked at 15, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's maybe a best player available sort of thing. They've got a few positions that they could go, and I think it's quite similar to as a lot of teams in this area who are like edge, cornerback, sort of wide receiver maybe teams, and the Colts seem the same. So they maybe see Dallas Turner, like you said, he's been mocked consistently in the top 10. Not for me personally, I have him as a third edge rusher, but this would be a good seen as a good value anyway, getting him at 15. And they've got Quitty Pay, who's maybe not quite hit the heights yet that he showed. He's flashing some stuff. Good player, but he's not like the elite edge rusher, and you need more than one of these.
He has great games and games where you don't even hear his
Yeah.
name being called. Yeah, he's not as dominant as some of the other guys in that position.
Yeah, so they need multiple guys, so that would help the room, definitely.
Perfect. Okay. Right, then it's your pick.
It's me, and I've picked the best edge rusher, or the one better than Dallas Turner for me. I love Laiatu Latu at the UCLA, and I think again this is just best player available for the Seahawks. I mean, they could have taken tackle, they could have taken cornerback. They've invested quite a lot in edge recently, but it's mostly like second round picks, and they don't have that elite dominant guy. But Latu could be that guy, and he could come in and get 10 sacks straight away. He's just that good. He's used to being in the Pacific Northwest as well. So I don't know if that makes any sense. He's old Washington guy. He's on the West Coast. So yeah,
it's not
means
a million miles from home. Yeah. And I think also, having lost Brooks, they had a bit of a change around defensively as well. They got a new head coach in. Get your building blocks in place. Next best player up. Slot him in and go again. I think actually the Seahawks one to watch what they do in the next couple of years. I think because they're not. They've got some good players. Like they got the wide receiver seem pretty set, and Geno seems quite happy. But they need a bit more defensively to sturdy them up and not have to get and chase games. I think and losing a few of their key defensive players last year alters their thought process a bit. I think losing. I was surprised Brooks left. If I'm being honest, if they're losing one linebacker, why lose the second one as well? There's obviously financial implications there, but
yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how much they can be coached up. And how much they could improve through their scheme. I think it was underrated how bad the Seahawks defense have been since the sort of Legion of Boom days. It's been a while since then, so maybe that, like I said, Mike McDonald comes in and coaches them up a little bit, and obviously they've still got their picks as well. So first, second round pick, I wouldn't be surprised to see defense getting addressed in both those scenarios.
Indeed, cool. Right, so. Next up was Nathan with the Jags. He went quarterback. Didn't say an awful lot about it really. I think it was like for him. There's a need there to slot in. There's been a bit of change as well. I mean, obviously they've invested in. Josh Allen, on the defensive side. They've actually, I think the last couple of years have been defensive. Is it Tevon Walker and
Trayvon Walker, was a number one.
So they're invested in defensive side and also in free agency, picking up some players. Obviously, lost some players with free agency as well on the defensive side of the ball. They're an interesting team, the Jags, because they last couple of years they seem to be trying to push to make that next step, but never quite got there. They obviously undid the mess of Urban Meyer quite quickly. I think that was the big to get away from the mess that Urban Meyer sort of left them in. And I think they're making the right steps. Probably they probably need more. Probably more down the sort of the Falcons route of having a few more first round picks on the offensive side of the ball to help them get ticking along with Trevor Lawrence. But yeah, I mean, was he the first corner off the board? Yeah, first corner off the board as well. So best. I don't know. I can't remember how you guys in the United Nations podcast.
We only talked about a few guys. He's probably maybe like 3 or 4 for me, but he's a good pick. I'm not saying he's a bad pick here. I'm surprised the corners have lasted this long. I'm not sure it'll work this way in the real draft. I think we'll maybe get taken a bit higher. Maybe DeJean lasts to the Jaguars, but it's a good pick. I think Tyson Campbell's really good for them, but they need a guy opposite. A guy opposite to, because you need more than 2 corners in today's NFL. You need a lot of them.
Yeah, I think noticed the Bears have been stacking up more players in free agency as well to build that room up on there. So I guess it does make sense on that side. Yeah, and you obviously defense win your championships, as we all know. So you've got to have a strong defensive side of the ball to win it. Next up was me with Bengals. Well, as T. Higgins' future is, he's basically gone, isn't he? He wants out. They want him out. It doesn't seem to be a very happy relationship. I thought, wide receivers the way they're going to go here. They've got offensively a very good setup there. So I think he's from what I've seen of his tape, he's a fairly similar player to T. Higgins. The way he's his body shape and movement. My scouting ability is probably not as good as some other people's. I must admit. I'm sat here in Surrey in England, not at the combine. So that's where I went on this. I thought, a wide receiver is the spot to go. I think he had a pretty decent season last year as well. Tape I saw him look quite good on.
Yeah, he's a very good player. I would be a good pick. They're sort of planning ahead, 1 year ahead. It doesn't seem like T. Higgins is going to be around. They could even trade him on draft day. You know what I mean? We could, if they do pick Brian Thomas, we could see a draft day trade. They say we'll replace 1 for 1, get another first round pick or something like that from the 49ers, or maybe that was a bad example. I don't know who's going to give up a first round pick, but could see this could sort of the dominoes could fall. This could start off a chain reaction of activity. But I think it's a position in need for them. Very good player.
Yeah, I'm not sure the Niners with the guys. Obviously, they've got their own problems trying to sort money out with all their star players at the moment. So maybe
Chiefs, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, the Chiefs, a 1 year rental. I mean, obviously, a first round pick's probably a bit expensive for a 1 year rental, but when your setup's quite good, he's fit in the system quite well. Be a good addition for Mahomes. Actually, help stretch the field a bit as well. So, okay, right. We're on to yourself, weren't we then, on the Rams?
I'm back on the cornerbacks. Yep, Terry Arnold. He's my top corner. I really love him. I think he's got everything you need. He's very physical, probably a good impressed man. He could play inside and outside. So the Rams really need cornerbacks. They obviously lost Aaron Donald, so maybe tempted to take defensive tackle, and they're beginning to slide as well. So there were a couple of options on the board. But Arnold was my top corner, and I thought you can't really replace Aaron Donald, so why even bother to try? Get the back end sorted out a little bit for yourself, and then go from there.
If you could plug a guy straight in to be Aaron Donald, that would be incredibly impressive, and he would not have been going at 19. I don't think. I think he'd have been a lot higher up the board. I think I'd have happy the Bears take him at 9. If Aaron Donald. Yeah, all day long. I think they've been drafting quite well the last couple of years. Now they've got draft picks. They seem to
Yeah.
be drafting quite well and sensibly. They're not been overly splashy. They're trying to pick sound, good players that fit the system of what they want. And yeah, I think defensively they need a bit more work than the offense. They got Nakua last year kind of was an amazing pick out of nowhere and saved them probably having to look at an earlier wide receiver this year. Cup's getting to the age where you've got to think about the next guy after him. Stafford again. The offensive side is kind of now. Defensively, they've got to get it to stack up. And losing Donald, you got to nail down the backfield quite a lot. I think on that. So interesting times to see how they progress there. Actually, the Rams. I hopefully try and get to see them this year as well. If I can get tickets.
Who they are up against in
I've
London?
no idea. They've not announced it yet, but I'm trying to book a holiday that lasts all of September.
Oh, right.
And I'm trying to be in Los Angeles twice and San Francisco at weekends. It's not that easy. It's not easy. Hopefully see one game. I mean, I end up watching the Rams play Panthers. Maybe like not quite the thing. Ideally, I'd like to see the Bears play. I'm not sure the Bears have got a plan this year. I've got no idea. But yeah, not announced the thing. I'm trying to fly out on the first weekend of the season. I'm trying to fly out on the Friday and then be there in LA for that first weekend and then San Fran and back to LA for the last weekend, if I can.
Yeah, the Chargers there as well. As you hopefully get a game sorted, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? If I've not told the missus, but it'd be great. Watch the Chargers in week 1, the Rams in week 3. Superb. That'll be the dream. Oh, and chuck in the Niners in between as well, just because I can. We can't do anything like holidays. We always spend all the money on NFL tickets. And as she's a big fan of this podcast, I'm now in definite trouble. No, she won't listen to this at all. Trust me. Right. So I then got really confused on this. I started picking players that had already been drafted. So I was trying to work at the same time. So in fact, no, yes. Nathan's pick.
Nate first.
Yes. Even more confused again today. It's perfect. Yeah. So Powers Johnson. I like what the Steelers have done this offseason. They've given themselves little bits of chances to really step forwards, but they've not done anything to make you think they're going to be a massive leap forwards. If Russell Wilson's as bad as he was last year, Fields will be starting within a couple of weeks, if I'm right. So they need to have some help for I think on that side of it. And I don't know, Powers Johnson, good addition to help that side of it.
It seems to be, but they definitely need more help on the offensive line. They've got Nate Herbig, who's an ex-New York Jet, who's he's fine, but he's not up to much. So they could get a solid start. And if you look at the history of all the first-round picks, the ones who seem to be consistently good and are like always nailed on prospects are the centers. So if any center goes in the first round, to me, he's going to be good. But yeah, so they've got a lot of holes to fill, like you said. On offense, I'm a bit worried about them if they don't get another wide receiver. Maybe they don't do it in the first round, but in the first 3 rounds, they tend to be good in the second, third round picking guys. But I'd be a bit worried about Wilson under center if they don't address a wide receiver as well.
So they have been linked with Ayuk, and I guess Higgins has been mentioned, I think, a couple of times as well as potential trade.
We'll link them to Higgins. We'll link them to Higgins. That's the first round pick they're going to do if Brian Thomas goes to the Bengals. Yeah,
actually, that makes sense. Okay, right. So it was crossed that out. Sorry, Nate, we've changed your pick. They just sold it, and the Bengals come in and take a cent. There, that's fine. We'll just do it that way. It's all easy. Right. So it was me, wasn't it? Next. Right, the Dolphins. I think they've shown offensively the last few years they've got weapons all over the place. I did read somewhere they were talking about trying to pick up another wide receiver, a bit more pace. I don't know if Mitchell this far up the list. I don't know if he's the guy they'd want to add to the cheetah. I think they've also spent some money in free agency on the defense as well. So maybe it's a case of adding a bit more to that as well to solidify. Because obviously they were supposedly going to be challengers last year, and it didn't materialise. I've not watched All or Nothing yet. I need to sit down and watch that and see where it all went really wrong. It could be the fancy gold watch the head coach wears, because it's very distracting for most players, I'd have thought, with Mike Daniels. But I think we're getting to the point of the draft where it's kind of almost best players up now for a lot of these teams, adding quality players, so it's already a good roster. I think Newton is a guy that can fit into that system quite well on the defensive line to do it.
Yeah, they lost Christian Wilkins as well, so he's a he's a replacement. Yeah. He's obviously not going to be that good right away, but I think he can be very good right away. Like he's my top defensive tackle, very polished, ready to come in and make an instant impact, and that's what the Dolphins want. They obviously want to go for that championship. They're not going to make it because they're in the same division as the Jets, but yeah, Johnny Newton, great pick here. Oh, he's fallen too far. I hope he goes a lot higher than this, but I hope he doesn't go to the Dolphins.
Well, yeah, certainly from your point of view. Yeah. Actually, that division's not fun for any of them. I don't think. I guess it's you think you're making steps forward, and suddenly one of the other teams who thought were declining suddenly step up again. I've completely forgot. As I was talking, I was trying to think of who'd left. And then Wilkins. So I think to me that makes sense on that front. So on that. Then we had yourself.
Yeah, I'm taking another cornerback. I feel like I've taken all the cornerbacks, but this was sort of best player available, but it also fills a position in need as well. The Eagles have, for a few years now, they've needed a cornerback, really. They've got Slay and Bradbury who are old, and they really need some help in that sort of the defensive backfield. Mitchell's probably one of the top ranked corner for a lot of people. He's got speed, he's got size, he's physical. Could be everything they asked for.
Yeah, and I guess they're a team looking to try and get back to the Super Bowl again. Obviously, last year it didn't quite work out, but there's still a lot of talent on that roster still, and they're still pushing to be dominating again. Like you said, the corners need refreshing, and also, as you said before, you need more than a couple now. You need a decent store of good corners in there. I think it's probably a sensible pick from them. Again, or maybe they're another team that maybe want to happily trade out the first if they want to pick up some stuff for future. They're known for being quite creative with some of their bits and pieces of trades over the years, aren't they? So
AJ Brown on draft day they got, and
I mean, I guess is an Ayuk or a T Higgins a guy that they want to add to give even more firepower to that team? I think 3 good wide receivers is probably too much, personally. But
they just paid Devonta Smith as well, didn't they? So they'll need to pay Ayuk as well. So it seems like a lot invested in the wide receiver, but you can dream. You can dream.
Well, if you're going to play 1 year and 1 year, if you're going to go all in, you might as well go all in big, right? So we shall see. Right, so that brings up Nathan. Is that right? Yeah, Nathan on the Again, go back to earlier on. I guess if you're drafting a quarterback, you got to keep them upright. I can see them, like you said, using the 23rd pick to do either up or down with the early pick, or maybe back out in the first, maybe. Obviously, we're not doing trades, but I can see the way the tackles have been at that initial top tier had gone quite quickly earlier on in our draft. So these guys are probably not too far behind in the pecking order. So actually having another good lineman in there for a rookie quarterback, even for Darnold, will help on that front. And obviously, with your receiving core, like it to go deep in corners, you want to get these quarterbacks enough time to let the receivers run the routes down the field. So I don't know much about him, to be honest. I'm sort of talking round the subject.
He's a very good player. He's very versatile. He's projected to be a centre or a guard at the next level, but he played tackle for Duke, so very versatile. Can play like all 5 positions. So I think he's going to be coveted. I could see him going even up maybe a bit higher than this as well. So he seems to be a very good player by all accounts. So he can fit a couple of positions across the line for the Vikings.
Yeah, I think from I was looking at the whole board that not everyone can see at the moment. There's a few players later on which now I'm looking at it 24 hours later may have been a bit of a different call. You might have seen him go a bit earlier in the draft, but we stuck with this. This is what we're doing, so that's perfect.
Buyer's remorse.
Yes, well, always. I'll get seller's remorse. Massive. I don't know if I regret selling Fields or not to John and the Crunch. I still don't know how I feel about that.
It's going to be inconsequential. Nothing's going to matter anyway. You're fine.
I think I can keep going backwards and forwards. Going, do I? Don't I? Do I? Don't I? Do I? Yeah. This is why I don't go in the draft. It would take a whole 24 hours for me to decide who I wanted. Do I? No. Right. So then it was myself, wasn't it? On that. Right. So there's been a lot of change at the Cowboys on that line. They lost a few of the old guard that have moved on. So it, to me, adding another offensive lineman into that. They love drafting decent linemen. They like having the pack on there. It's probably possibly the last year of Dak as it stands. I think unless they can really look at his contract, maybe. I can't see them doing anything other than really giving him a chance to go and try and win this year. Wide receiver was a sort of an area I thought they may want to add someone to play alongside Lamb. I think when I made the pick, Nathan thought I may have reached for a running back on this, but I don't think the running backs really come into account this year. I guess that there was options there for Mitchell or Franklin or sort of players like that to be the other wide receiver. But I think the fact they've lost some of the older stalwart linemen, they'll restock that cupboard.
Yeah, I thought Mims, the deal on Mims is he's a physical freak. Like he's a massive human being, but he's only played 8 games. He was blocked a bit at Georgia. Some like elite NFL talent was in front of him, and then he struggled with injuries. But if there's any team I trust to draft offensive linemen in the first round, like you mentioned it earlier, it's probably going to be the Cowboys. So they've got Tyler Smith there, who's turned into a really good player, and they can move him around, and Amarius Mims can come in and maybe start this year, maybe take a year to develop. But I think they've got a few different ways they can go. Wouldn't be surprised if it's tackle.
Indeed. Okay. Right. Brings up yourself with the other team in what they called the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, I'm waiting on the hate from the Packers fans. It seems like roster wars is Packers and Lions. That's all we have is Packers and Lions fans. But I went with offensive tackle. Went with Olu Fashanu. Maybe not a day one starter. They're not it's not a massive need for him, but he seems to be falling a bit here. I know early on in the process he was like a top 10 pick nailed on. He seems to have fallen down as other people have been pushed up. And so he can come in, he can be a rotational guy. They can move around some of the other guys that they've got already, maybe get him a start. But I think there's not a huge amount of holes for the Packers, to be honest. So they can do with taking the best guy that's there.
Do we think so? On the fact he has dropped from a top 10 pick to a 15 pick, is this purely because of other teams' needs, or this guy's agent's just not selling him well enough to the mock draft and the team's needs? Is it as simple as he's not getting the same amount of press that McCarthy's getting, or Brock Bowers, or is it purely as much as that?
It could be. I think it's maybe because he was on the radar early on, and when we didn't know that many offensive tackles were going to be in the first round, for example, you know what I mean. And then you've got guys like Graham Barton at Duke, who are maybe a smaller school, not in as public eye as much as Penn State. He's getting pushed up. You've got Amarius Mims, who only played 8 games, so maybe didn't know he was a first round pick, getting pushed up. So for me, it's probably other guys going ahead of him rather than him falling, and turns out he's not very good. And it could be just a case of he is really good and he's going to still go top 15, top 10, and the media don't know what they're talking about. But,
we know absolutely nothing.
I know nothing, but
well, yeah. In all fairness, I mean, I as far as offensive linemen go, I would not be the world's authority on. I have gone off and done some reading and done some research, but I'm nowhere. Yeah. I mean, I don't watch enough college football to know enough about these guys. And also, the step between college and NFL is huge, right? So even if you're the best left tackle at college, you can get run over in the NFL. It's a very difficult step to make. So this then brings up Nathan with the Buccaneers. Again, I think it's a need. I think they need that sort of player to sit in the system. I think they lost a couple of linemen end of last year, start of this year, from memory. So I think it's rejuvenation of a cupboard that needs fresh faces in it, and I guess like the corners, you need more of the guys anyway, right? Because the amount of injuries these guys pick up, you got to have an array of talent in there.
Yeah, a few places it could have gone as well. So Fraser's, by all accounts, a good player. Again, centre seemed to be really solid. So I think late first, second round is a good spot to pick up one. But they could have went edge rusher. They could have went cornerback. There's a few holes that the Buccaneers have. Surprisingly, despite being a sort of this late round pick, that are obviously sneaked into the playoffs just by being the best in a bad division. A few holes, and they'll probably take the best player. And Fraser could be a good pick.
And being very selfish, now I have the quarterback for the Buccaneers. I want that O-line to be amazing. All right, I think West Virginia Into the Sandman, is that their entry music for the university?
I have no idea. That's a good. That's good fact. That's good fact. We'll say it's true. We'll say it's true.
Yeah. I'll probably entrance. Yeah. Sorry, it just suddenly sprung into mind that. Yeah, Enter Sandman. Yeah, right. Sorry, I also went down a hole somewhere on Wikipedia once, the rabbit hole, and found myself looking at entry music of the college football team.
It's lodged in the back of your brain somewhere.
Oh,
you've just brought it forward.
That'd be a random pub quiz question that no one ever needed to know what the entry music for West Virginia. No one will ever need to know that in a pub quiz.
No one's ever going to ask that pub question either.
If I host one, I might do it just to be really, really, really annoying that no one else will know the answer. Right, so where are we? 27 Cardinals. It's me, isn't it? Yeah. So So again, I think the needs they've a way we've done it. They've obviously addressed the wide receiver issue at 4. I think, as you said, corner wise, they've got to a point where some of the older guys are getting more injuries. That they need to start bringing the next generation in behind them. I think at one point he was probably I think he's got the best name in the draft as well. That's why I picked him. Kool-Aid, done, sold. He can become a bear for that name as well. I don't know. As a corner, I mean, we're looking at the names gone off the board. You know, some of these guys may go earlier, so there may be some options there. I think again the Cardinals could probably go a couple of different ways on this, a tackle, an edge rush, or whatever. But I think he looks to be quite a good addition there. I mean, I think looking at what's possibly coming up in the next round as well, they could probably pick up some of the linemen or edge rushers in that one. But I think at a corner, some of the good names have already gone. It's time to add that to your Arsenal.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Kool-Aid gets a bit of a bad rap. He was very good, not last year, the year before, 2 years ago. And he was sort of nailed on as this top 10 pick. But last year, I just don't think he was targeted as much. Like the offenses just didn't target him as much. Terry and Arnold was the guy that got all the sort of the targets. So he was able to make more splash plays. Kool-Aid, maybe he wasn't amazing, but I think teams just didn't target him, so he didn't get the opportunity to be amazing as well. So a lot of people don't have him in the first round, but I would still give him. I still think he's maybe a top 5 cornerback in this class, and it's a good pick.
Yeah, I think if you're not being targeted, there is no highlight reel, right? So you're just the other guy on the pitch. You're just running alongside the wide receivers and keeping them out of trouble. So, yeah. So right, we're up to yourself.
And this is fell perfectly for myself and the Bills. AD Mitchell, this is a perfect marriage. He replaces Stephon Diggs. Obviously, he's not quite as good as Stephon Diggs yet, but I think he's got his 4.3 speed, big man who moves really well. He's a red zone threat. He's going to be sort of a great fantasy asset as well if he matches up with Josh Allen here. I'll be taking him high. Love the fit, love the player, love that he fell to the Bills at 28.
Yeah, I mean, as our draft was going on, it was like, oh, there's one guy, two guys heading towards the end of this draft. If one of them will took both of them there for the Bills, that'll be amazing for them. I mean, can you see them try to trade up to try and secure that? I can't see them doing it. I can't see them using the ammunition to get that far up. They'll take a gamble a bit later on, but
Yeah, I'm not sure. I've heard some interviews with the GM recently, and they seem to be just not building in that way in terms of spending a lot of money on the wide receiver. So they may let the wide receiver come to them, and they may not even pick a wide receiver. I mean, everyone's slotting them in to take a receiver in the first round, but they may just say we're going to take someone else, maybe a cornerback, an edge rusher, and we'll take the wide receiver later on. They've got Kincaid there, who's going to be a bigger part of their offense. And I think they look at the way the Chiefs have been run with a franchise quarterback who you're paying a lot of money, and they look at you've got your tight end who's going to be reliable and throw to, because an elite tight end is cheaper than an elite wide receiver, and then you piece together the rest of the room in that way. So they could be copying the Chiefs in that respect, and I wouldn't be surprised if they were to pass on wide receiver in the first round. But for me personally, this is a luxury pick. This is sort of a bit of an indulgence of myself. I would love this to happen, as I own like the 104 and 105 in another league, and I want to take AD Mitchell, and I want him to land in a good spot.
fair enough. I think, yeah. I mean, having with the Diggs trade, I think that obviously opened the doors up. I think they've probably been linked with wide receivers before that anyway, because they've got
They needed one, yeah.
They needed one anyway. Now they need two. I mean, it's a bit like the Chargers. So just sell all the wide receivers. Please just leave the building. It's got go. Yeah, I can't argue looking at who's on the ball. I mean, yeah, you can argue that there's a edge rusher or corner or whatever out there they might go for, but I don't know what they're picking at in the second round. So maybe leaving it to the second round might be a little bit too late to pick up the guys. Or if you can't get the second, do you wait and try and pick up a guy cheaply in the sixth or whatever? I don't know, but yeah, right. So I think you said, as far as we're concerned, it's a no-brainer. You've got to have a target other than Kincaid. But Knox is still there as well, right?
Yeah, he's in the background somewhere catching touchdowns.
Yeah, that's why Diggs left. He was stealing all his targets. Right, so we're back to Nathan with 29 and the Lions. So he's gone for Murphy. I think the Lions are a really, really, really healthy spot offensively, and I think they've got some great defensive players as well. So whichever way they went with this, lineman, or I think it just helps push them on further. I think the way they've been last year, and I think the way the management works, they could pick anybody, and they seem to be playing incredibly well at the moment. I mean, yeah, the last couple, pick the players who haven't been great, and suddenly Campbell's got them just singing of the same hymn sheet and just performing really well. I think adding solid players round the flair is where the next step is, to make sure that maintains the forward traction.
Yeah, and Murphy's fallen very far in this draft. I can see him getting picked top 10, to be honest, when it comes to Thursday, but I just didn't fall this way for us, and I passed on him a few times myself. And this would be like a home run pick for the Lions. Everyone's going to be shouting their praises. It's also a position in need as well. He could come in straight away and make an impact as a pass rusher, and then develop into more than that. They need help along the defensive line. But other than that, like you said, they maybe don't have as many holes. They maybe want to plan ahead for the future in terms of the offensive lineman, get someone who's a bit versatile, who can plug some gaps. But yeah, they're in a more of a luxury spot where they can let the talent come to them
Yep.
after a couple of years of good picks. So yeah, this fits that bill of talented player coming to them.
I can't remember the actual figure, but I remember looking last year, their offensive, the Lions' offensive line is full of pretty much ex-first round picks, be it their first round picks or players they've picked up. It's a very, very solid unit. So yeah, adding a guy to sit coming behind them and learn off those guys for 1 year and let them progress is probably, you know, great place to be. I did think about maybe someone like Murphy for the number 9 pick for the Bears. You know,
Yeah,
but away
there you
with
go.
offensive linemen, but he is again a guy you could see playing for a long period of time in the NFL at a very high level and doing quite well. Hopefully that goes that way for him. So next up is myself, isn't it, with the Ravens? Yeah, so I went with Guyton. Guyton? Did I pronounce it? I can't
Yep,
remember
Tyler
my
Guyton.
pronunciation. Yeah. Again, I think the Ravens are in a position where they've had some nice tools to the box in free agency. They've shown they can compete last year pretty much. So having a tackle in there just gives the very expensive quarterback a bit more time, a bit more safety net. I don't know. I again, it's a point in the draft where you could go 4 different ways depending on who's left to pick and what they fancy on the day. But I just think adding another player of that ilk into the system at tackle should be a sort of a good spot to put into him.
Yeah, they lost Morgan Moses to the Jets, who started for right tackle for them last year. John Simpson as well, also to the Jets, who's the guard. So there's a need there. And Tyler Guyton, he's 6'8", 322 pounds. He's a big
Big
lad,
boy.
and he seems, the talk around him, he's very raw, but he's got all the sort of physical tools to do well. And yeah, the Ravens seem to be good at sort of developing offensive linemen. They all seem to have a good offensive line. So good pick, good spot for him to land, I think.
Okay. Now to the Niners. This is your pick.
Yep. And again, there's a lot of different ways, maybe not a lot, but the 49ers could go a few ways. They could obviously just take best player available because they're quite a well-rounded roster, but they do have a couple of holes at cornerback, maybe at defensive line, replacing Arik Armstead. I've went for a cornerback, and I just based on who is left, what talent was left available. I like Ennis Rakestraw Jr. I like both the cornerbacks in Missouri, to be honest, but Rakestraw is probably going to go higher, maybe go in the end of the first, second round. He's a very physical player. He sort of fits the 49ers for me. And I just love watching him play. Plays bigger than his size. I think he's like 186 pounds, but he plays bigger than that. Very physical. And I think he'd be a good addition to sort of a 49ers team who's looking maybe they won't do best player available. Maybe they'll go for the plug the gaps because they're really desperate to get the Super Bowl, aren't they? It's been a few years as nearly men. They want an impact player who can get them over the line.
See, I was thinking with the Ayuk situation, do they try and bring in another wide receiver? Do they, like you said, is that wide receiver going to be the guy who takes them over the edge? Is it going to be? Yeah, Olmstead's a big loss, but they've got other players in that system that are well rounded. The way Shanahan organises it all. So, will they be? I think they picked up another defensive tackle in free agency. I can't remember the guy's name
Malik
now.
Collins, Jordan Elliott joined them. So you're right. They do. They like to rotate as well. So they've got a lot of guys there, and they coach them up as well, don't they, on the defensive line?
So I think on that side, I mean, you said earlier, adding another corner to the room's not a bad thing. I just wonder if the way this franchise is set up at the moment, with Ayuk being a bit unsure of how he wants to go, he could do something crazy like sit or demand a trade or do something this year. How do they fill that gap of Ayuk in that system currently? Do they? I think maybe they take the cheap wide receiver and say to him, look, we get the right price for you. We'll move you on to somewhere else, be it in the draft or post draft or during the season, or they let him walk in free agency like next year.
Yeah, it's
I think
very, very similar to T. Higgins, isn't it? And
yeah,
I think I think the 49ers are maybe less cheap and they're maybe more likely to pay Ayuk. And it very well could happen before Thursday and there'd be a bit more clarity. But you're right, it could be sort of future planning, give the new guy, if they were to take someone this year, give them a year to bed in and not have to be that impact player straight
because
away.
obviously
But
you got to
personally
pay
for
Brock
me,
at some point as well, right? Brock needs paid.
maybe.
He won't be
They just
cheap.
draft another. They just draft another quarterback in the 7th round. That's going to be a starter. That's all they need to do. But yeah, so for me personally on the board right now, I didn't see anyone who I considered a first round wide receiver pick, and one that would maybe fit the 49ers. So there's a few guys who are a bit more physical guys in the second, third round. They could get Roman Wilson, someone like that. I would say so. They could come back around and get that to fill the need.
Indeed. Okay. Which brings us to Mr. Irrelevant in the first round draft. So Nathan went with Troy Franklin, which, again, like we said earlier on, a great quarterback with good tools is very, very dangerous. And they've lost a few players. And they've done, obviously, the Kadarius Toney thing didn't quite work. They've not really had any sort of... Yeah. I was trying to be polite in case anyone signed him and was listening to us. But they've not really, apart from Kelsey, they've not really got any players. Rice was good, but is he going to prison?
From jail.
Yeah.
Marquise Brown.
Oh, yeah, I forgot he'd gone there actually. So yeah, okay. So maybe having the third wide receivers. I don't know. I mean, I like the idea. Maybe they know more about the Rice situation than we do. Maybe they know he's going to be on Rodgers' bad boy list for a year, or and also if Marquise Brown, he didn't really light up in the desert. He wasn't like an absolute star in Arizona. I don't know what sort of contract is Hollywood Brown on. Is he on big money? I can't remember. He's not. He's not.
Is
like
it a 1-year
superstar
deal?
money,
Is it not? I think it's a 1-year deal. So yeah,
So
I don't think he could be considered a long-term guy in the room. So even before Rice's sort of misdemeanors, they needed to add talent in the wide receiver room because obviously you saw how it happened. I'm going to say you saw what happened in the playoffs, but they won the Super Bowl. So that sounds stupid to say, but
yes,
they do need to add more talent in the wide receiver room. Franklin's very fast. I worry about his physicality, especially at the catch point. But if there's any team that could sort of make the most of talent, make the most of someone's abilities, then it's probably Andy Reid and the Chiefs. So
yeah.
you're at the point where maybe any wide receiver that falls to the Chiefs, you sort of maybe want to draft them in fantasy because you think they're going to get the best out of them. And Franklin does have good qualities. There's just a couple of things I worry about. So the draft fit will be important for me.
Yeah, I guess when someone like Mahomes' arm ability may actually give him more ability to separate and not have the physicality at the catch. He can.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, wide open. If he's wide open, he's a perfect player.
Yeah, well, I think we saw plenty of times with the cheetah, right? Once he gets going and gets cleared, Mahomes can hit him at 20, 30, 50 plus yards if he's got the arm power to do it. So take away the issue of any body contact. Well, just let him just go and just Hail Mary the whole way down.
Just plug him in for Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Give him the exact same looks that he did, and you've got an upgrade already.
Yeah, I guess and it's a luxury, right? So you've been dominant the last few years in your conference and the Super Bowl. So if you have an off year, I mean, none of these guys want to have an off year, but Kelsey's at a point where he's got like making the most of what he wants to do. So I want to keep feeding it while Kelsey's there to keep the scoring going and keep the winning going. Once Kelsey goes, it might be a bit more of a rebuild after that because they've got to replace one of the best tight ends ever with someone else, right? It's not as easy to do. Whereas I guess wide receivers, there's more quality of that most years. So I I mean, if Brock Bowers drops back, they're going to take him. I'd have thought to let him have a year sit behind Kelsey or 2 years behind Kelsey. That'd be quite interesting. Not going to see Brock Bowers drop that far back now, but
I've seen someone say they're going to trade up for Brock Bowers. That's very, very spicy, very interesting.
that'd be very ballsy, I think. Yeah. Try. I mean, I guess if he drops into the sort of second half of the draft, sort of after 16, 17, 18, then you're not trading up that far for it, really, are you?
There you go. Make it happen.
Yeah, why not? Well, done. They only take us an hour and a half. It's not too bad. Like our first year was over 2 separate podcasts. It was nearly 2 hours odd long, which shows you how much Nathan talks. I'll leave it at that. Right, Jock. So it's not far now, is it? Couple of days away, and we will see who gets picked second, because pick 1 seems to be nailed on totally on this. Thank you very much for doing this, Ross. It's a busy time work-wise for you as well. So
it's been enjoyable. I'm just going to hold myself out to any podcast that wants me. So always happy to talk NFL.
Between you and Nathan, I'm starting to feel very left out. I mean, you're even doing collaborations elsewhere with different podcasts. I mean, it's I'm here, I'm available, I'm free. You know, I can do stuff as well. Right, so we'll leave it at that, and we'll see. I guess we'll reconvene after the draft with Nathan, hopefully, once he's moved house. We can have a look at that, and maybe look at some landing spots and where we think some of these guys could go in our draft in the RR if PP have finished RFA by that point, of course. Right, so thank you very much for all your time. Look forward to seeing you all soon.
Thanks very much. See you later.